What's the one thing that could potentially put Joe Schoen's job in serious jeopardy? We have that, plus former New York Giants receiver Victor Cruz dropped by for a chat. That's all coming your way next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credentialed member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find my written work. And as always, welcome on in to my Blue Crew community members, to my everydayers, to my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube, as always, it is appreciated if you would consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget, if you subscribe, to click the little notification bell so that you are notified every time I post a new video, whether it be a full show or a short or something special. And if you wouldn't mind, also like the video. That would help. And for those of you who listen to us on the audio platforms, please consider giving us a 5-star review. We really try hard here to give you quality programming. And I hope, we're doing a good enough job for that. So on today's Locked On Giants podcast, we're going to talk about, what I think is the main thing that can maybe see the end of the Joe Schoen era. Now, Joe Schoen, he's in year 3. I personally don't think he's going anywhere. I think they're going to give him at least 4 years, maybe 5. But there is one thing that we have to pay attention to, that if this one thing doesn't kind of, straighten out and start to trend upward, he could be in jeopardy of losing his job. And hint, folks, it's not necessarily wins and losses. So I'm going to tell you what that is in just a minute. Segment 2, Victor Cruz joins the program earlier today. I had a chance to spend about 10 minutes with him or so talking about the Giants. We also talked about a new campaign that he's involved with Captain Morgan. So hope you will stick around to check that out. And then in segment 3, the Giants locker room, let's take the pulse of the Giants locker room, because look, after a while, losing can start to wear on a team. It can start to wear on athletes if they don't have the proper structure around them and the proper mindset. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll give you my takeaways and what I think the pulse of that locker room is and why that's so important as the Giants get ready for week 3, a game against the Cleveland Browns. So that's our agenda today. Again, welcome on into everybody. Let's get started. All right. It goes without saying the Giants have not gotten off to a very good start this season. 0-2 against 2 teams, the Vikings and the Commanders, that the Giants should have beaten. And as is usually the case when a team gets off to a slow start, the seats under the head coach and the GM start to warm up. And I think, Brian Daboll, we'll talk about him on maybe another show, but I want to talk about Joe Schoen in particular, because that's the guy who I think a lot of people are really starting to maybe question if he's the man for the job for this rebuild. Now, I personally do not think that Joe Schoen is in as much danger as some people out there think is the case. I think if the Giants show steady improvement, even if they're not necessarily winning the games, but so long as they're not getting blown out of games on a regular basis, I think he and Daboll will be fine. But there is definitely one aspect that I think we have to look at when we evaluate Joe Schoen. All right. And that's his draft classes. What is the team getting out of Joe Schoen's draft classes? So let's go back to 2022, the first class. Now, this one, I kind of give Joe Schoen a little bit of a pass here, because when he came in, he was hired at, I believe, mid-January. The coaching staff hadn't been hired, hadn't been put in place. And it was pretty late in the draft evaluation process. So everybody was trying to feel each other out. Okay, what do you need? What do you need to make your offense and your defense run? So I think for that point, for 2022, it was more or less getting the best players available. Um, there was some feedback from the coaches as they were hired, but I just feel like maybe, had they been together a little bit longer, maybe it would have been different. All right, so let's look at that 2022 draft class and what they have done so far. Evan Neal, um, we know the story there. He was drafted 7th overall, hasn't developed, has been injured. Okay, so we can say that he's borderline bust. I won't put him there yet, but he's trending in that direction. Kayvon Thibodeau, they got a starter out of him. I think Kayvon is nowhere near, though, hitting his ceiling. I think he's got a lot of room to still grow. And, if he can continue his growth, he's going to be a really, really good player for them. Joshua Azudu, backup offensive lineman, another guy who's been inconsistent and who just hasn't really taken that next step. Cordell Flott, cornerback, he had a chance to win the starting job this summer, wasn't able to do it. Daniel Bellinger, starting tight end by default right now, but I wonder if there isn't, if it's just a matter of time before Theo Johnson passes him on the depth chart. Marcus McKeithen and Darian Beavers no longer on the roster. So really, the Giants got 3 starters out of that 2022 draft class. Thibodeau, Micah McFadden, who I didn't mention before, but he was in that class, and Daniel Bellinger. So that class, if you're giving it a grade, now that it's been, it's entering its 3rd year. I mean, if you want to give it a grade, I think you got to give that class maybe a C-, and that's being generous because I don't know that they've gotten enough out of that class. All right, 2023 was a little bit better. They got Deontay Banks and John Michael Schmitz, 2 starters. The backups include Jalen Hyatt, Eric Gray, running back, and Trey Hawkins. That's where you're a little shaky. Okay, Jalen Hyatt's still not getting in the game enough time. And Hyatt had a chance to beat out Darius Slayton in the summer, really wasn't able to do it for whatever the reason. So the jury's still out on him. Eric Gray was trending towards being the running back 2. I think Tyrone Tracy, the rookie, who we're going to talk about in the next draft class, passed him. Trey Hawkins had a chance to be a starting cornerback and wasn't ready. And then Owens, he's still around, but really, what's his role? I think just special teams. So you could say the 2023 draft class was also another meh type of class, at least based on what we know today. Too early to give it a grade because it's only in its 2nd year, but you want to get more out of it. All right, 2024, right now looking like the most promising class of the 3 of Joe Schoen's. So you have Malik Neighbors, who's a stud, Tyler Newman, who looks like he's going to be a stud, Andrew Phillips, the 3rd round pick, the slot cornerback, he looks like he's a stud. Very encouraged by what we've seen from Theo Johnson, although Theo Johnson needs to still work on his pass catching, but the blocking is certainly there. Tyrone Tracy, the running back who I mentioned before, looks like he's jumped ahead of Eric Gray as RB2. And then Darius Mawaso, the inside linebacker, who until getting injured was actually a surprise starter. So the draft classes, if you're looking at them from Joe Schoen's first one, 2022 to 2024, they've gotten better. All right. But here's the thing. The Giants need to get as much out of those classes as they can because that is the foundation of this team. If these draft classes peter out, then we got problems because that is the core of this team. Bringing in free agents and trading for guys, that's not necessarily going to do it. That's going to supplement what you have, but you have to have a strong core. And I think if the Giants don't have a strong foundation, and, again, I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think they're going to give Joe Schoen at least 4 years. I mean, they gave Dave Gettleman 4 years, so they should give Joe at least 4, in my opinion. But if that foundation continues to be on the rickety side, then I think at that point, maybe you want to consider going in a different direction. But again, the good news is the draft classes have been trending upward. So, all right, coming up next, we are going to hear from Victor Cruz, former Giants receiver, who's going to talk to us about the Giants and about a new campaign he's involved with Captain Morgan. So please don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, if you're like me, there are just some days when you don't feel like going out or cooking, or you're craving a particular cuisine and you just don't have the time to go out to get it. Now you don't have to, thanks to DoorDash. DoorDash offers hundreds of restaurants, grocery, and convenience store options, and their team of professional, courteous drivers will bring everything you want and need right to your door. I'm a regular user of DoorDash, and seriously, folks, I don't know what I'd do without it. It's as easy as opening up their app, finding the restaurant or store that has what I want, and then placing an order. DoorDash gives you estimated delivery times, and you can even track your Dasher on their interactive map. And with a Dash Pass, you don't have to pay delivery fees, which is really convenient. And guess what, folks? Right now, you can try DoorDash with a special offer. Get 50% off up to $10 when you spend $15 or more on your first order with the promo code LOCKEDFALL24. You'll truly be amazed at the speed and service that you receive from DoorDash. And I just know that you're going to be impressed by the convenience. Again, that promo code is LOCKEDFALL24. That's LOCKEDFALL24. And that's for 50% off up to $10 on orders of 15 or more. DoorDash, your door to more. Terms apply. Promo is not valid on orders containing alcohol. Must be 21 and over to order alcohol. Please, if you're ordering alcohol, drink responsibly. Alcohol is only available in select markets. Download the DoorDash app now to get your game day favorites and enjoy the convenience with the promo code LOCKFALL24. Hey, Giant fans, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, New York Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and as promised, I have one of my favorite New York Giant players, ex-New York Giants player, but he's once a Giant, always a Giant. He is wide receiver Victor Cruz. He is here to talk Giants. He's also going to talk a little bit about a campaign he's involved with Captain Morgan. It's called Follow the Captain. So we'll talk about that a little later in the segment. First off, Victor, so wonderful to see you. I love that smile. I miss that smile. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Always a pleasure catching up with you.
Same here, my friend. All right, Victor, let's talk Giants. Unfortunately, Owen to start, a lot of heat coming at the team. I think we've got to start with Daniel Jones. A lot of people still asking, what do the Giants have in Daniel Jones in year 6? I'd like to get your take on that. What do they have now that he is in year 6 of his career? And is this guy someone that they can win with, you think?
I think they can. I think they finally have the type of offense around him that he can feel confident with each and every weekend, that he can go out there and put points up and do things positively as an offense as a whole. I think Singletary as a running back I think people see the talent in him and they see the things that he can do with the football and just be that consistent running back piece. We're not saying he's Saquon Barkley, but we are saying that he's a consistent piece at the running back position that can get us from point A to point B. And I think Daniel Jones, if we look at week 1 to week 2, there are some improvements. There are some things that he has done better from week 1 to week 2. But again, I like to look at it after 4 weeks of football, after the first month, because the preseason isn't really a real indicator for me anymore because they don't play a lot of football. So I think Daniel Jones has the ability to be the guy that they can count on from a quarterback perspective for the Giants. I think we just got to give him some more time this year to really hone in on his playmakers and make the big plays when we need it.
Vic, one of the things about Daniel has been, or one of the criticisms I should say, has been his post snap processing. The timing with the receivers. Having played receiver, how important is all that? Matching up, syncing up, and how can that be expedited? Especially, he's got some new guys there with Malik Neighbors, who looks amazing, by the way.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Timing with your receivers, timing with your pass catchers, everyone being on the same page. I remember Eli used to have, like, we go through a week's worth of practice, and then Eli would have his own day to watch film with us on Fridays with all of the receivers and tight ends and running backs so that everyone was just on the same page, not only from a play by play perspective, but also to see what he was seeing, right? To see what things he was seeing in the defense that he wanted to exploit specifically. It would be somewhere around 10 to 12 plays that we would just go through, and he would say, hey, this is what I'm looking at. These are the type of plays that we have going in for this specific type of defense that we may go against, whether it be in the red zone or whether it be out in the open field. So I think that communication and that timing is very important. You got to be on the same page with your guys, and then you can take it from there.
Victor, when you look at this offense, is it built to complement the talent that they have, or is this offense maybe a little too complicated?
I don't think it's too complicated. I just think they need to find a way to, when there's third downs, when there's those opportunities that they need to make a big play, I think they need to figure out how to simplify things in those moments so that everyone can play fast and do what they need to do to be successful on that given play.
All right, now, Victor, I mentioned Malik Neighbors before. A lot of people seem to think that he's going to save this offense. I mean, is that putting too much on him, do you think? And looking at his talent, he'll be the first one to say he still has room to grow. Where do you think he has room to grow?
I mean, he has a ton of room to grow. I think just from a maturity perspective, right, as a receiver in the National Football League, like understanding timing, understanding route combinations, understanding how things may happen a little bit faster at this level than they do at the collegiate level. And then he comes in with the pressures of being the number one guy, which is not easy for any guy to kind of handle and to have on his shoulders. So I just think he needs time and reps and production in order to understand what his role is and how to execute that role at the highest level. And look, there's 2 games in. The kid had a great game this past Sunday. You want him to relish in the goodness of that. Obviously, he'll relish in the things that weren't so good, and he'll grow from those things, grow from those experiences. We've all been there as receivers. I've been there where I've made a drop in the game that costed us, or just did things throughout the course of a game that you wish you could have back. And it's just natural things that happen throughout the course of a game that you get to learn from. So I think he'll do those things. I think he'll learn, and I think he'll get better from it.
Now, Victor, with the 0-2 start, obviously the heat is on no matter what corner of the organization we're talking about. How does a team, kind of keep the focus and not worry about the outside noise or the brewing dissatisfaction that might be going on inside the building?
I think you got to focus on the leadership. I think right now more than ever, it's important to lean on those guys that have been there, to lean on Daniel Jones, to lean on those, Okereke, those leaders, those captains that are on the team, to really lean on them and understand that, hey, look, I know things haven't been good, but we're just 2 games in. There's a lot of football to be played. There's a lot of games out there. That's why we play them all. And that's what they have to hang their hats on, is the fact that there's a lot more football to be played and that they can still put their best brand of football out there. And like I said, those starters don't get a lot of playing time in the preseason anymore. So these first couple games, they're still getting their timing down. They're still getting their feet wet, still figuring out who they are. And I don't think we've even begun to build an identity for this team just yet. So I'm actually excited to see how we grow from week 2 to week 3, because I saw a drastic improvement. And I'm excited to see where this team can take it this year.
All right, now let's talk a little bit about the defense real quick. The defense, the run defense in particular, has still been a problem. It was a problem the first 2 years with Wink Martindale, still a little shaky. What do you think the problem is exactly? I mean, if you look at that run defense, they've got talent, but they're just not, the run fits aren't there. I mean, what do you see going on there?
I mean, I think, I don't want to claim to be a specialist on the defensive end, obviously, or anything, but from my knowledge and my tenure and being around the league for a long time now, I think it boils down to just a will, right? Like defensively, to stop the run, you got to have guys that are like, take it personal when teams try to run on them. Take it personal when, teams try to have a 100-yard rusher. Try to limit that as much as they can. Our front four, our front seven, taking it personal that these guys aren't just going to run the ball down their throats each and every play and really sustain their dominance throughout the course of the game. I think it comes down to a will to say, hey, we understand how to play defense. Linebackers know how to tackle. They know how to get their run fits, and the guys behind them know how to get in and make tackles. And I think they have to have a sheer will to want to execute that at the highest level.
What about that young defensive secondary? I know, a lot of criticism there. They've got Deonte Banks' second year. Right now, the CB2, it looks like it's going to be a Dory Jackson. Cordell Flott injured, didn't really, grab that job. Nick McLeod didn't really grab that job. How much of that do you think is maybe affecting the front seven?
I think it does to a certain degree, but as there's always three levels, right? So I think the front seven kind of works in unison, and then the secondary works as a secondary part of that. I think they all work together, but that front seven is really the glue, right? I think if you're getting pressure on the quarterback, if you're making him throw the ball, when the timing isn't there, and when you're making them rush and throw the ball, and you're pressuring the quarterback, good things tend to happen in the secondary. Guys turn to grow and understand how to make plays in the secondary when the ball's in the air. So I just think they just need to continue to stay the course, figure out how to get teams in third and long situations so that defense can pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, because that's when good things happen on the defensive end.
All right. Now, Victor, let's talk about Captain Morgan. You're involved with a campaign called Follow the Captain. Tell everybody about the campaign and how they can get involved.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been working with Captain Morgan for about 4 years now. It's been a phenomenal partnership, and I'm excited about the Follow the Captain campaign and the sailgate specifically on September 26th. You can go to followthecaptain.com or go to Captain Morgan US Instagram handles to get all the information on this. We're doing a cruise for the first time. We're getting everybody on a massive yacht, on a massive boat to have some fun. My first ever sailgate. I've done a couple tailgates in my life, but a sailgate is brand new for me. So Captain Morgan is providing that for me. Obviously, if you're 21 and older, go to followthecaptain.com to get all the information on that. It should be a lot of fun. We got a Mine recording artist coming to perform as well. So I'm very, very excited about this initiative, and we're going to have some fun.
And that's going to come up when, do you know?
That's September 26th. That's the sailgate before the Dallas Cowboy game.
Okay.
So go to followthecaptain.com for all the information, and I'll see you guys there.
I bet you're excited to come back to the stadium. Always good to come back to the stadium, right?
Absolutely. Always love it. Obviously, was just there for the 100-year, anniversary. Got to see a lot of the guys again. It was incredible.
And I'm sure there's going to be people asking you if you can go and suit up and play in the game.
Oh my God, it's been an abundance of that already. They're looking at me. They still see that I keep myself in somewhat good shape. So they say, "Hey man, you look like you can still go out there and play." And I said, "Yeah, maybe I can play, but I don't know if I can take a hit anymore. That's a whole different thing."
All right, Victor, before I let you go, I got to ask you this. What is your favorite Captain Morgan-based drink?
Ooh, I got to go with Captain and Coke. I think that's my favorite combination. It's easy, it's straight to the point, it tastes delicious, and it gets the party started. That's every time.
All right. Well, spoken from the man himself, Victor Cruz. Follow him on X. I almost said Twitter. It's formerly known as Twitter, at Team Vic. We'll have the information about Follow the Captain in the show notes. Victor, always great to see you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're a very busy man, and I appreciate you taking some time for me.
No problem, Patricia. Anytime. Always good to see you. Happy you're doing well and in good health.
All right. He is Victor Cruz. Giant fans, don't go anywhere. We have more on the Locked On Giants podcast coming right up. Hey, Giant fans, the next time you're looking to be part of the hottest ticket in town, check out Game Time. With the Game Time app, you'll never have to worry about being shut out of any event. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the most incredible deals on great seats so that you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time, there are no hidden fees. You'll know exactly what you're paying for before you check out. You'll get clear images of your seat views, and you'll also get event cancellation protection. And if you find tickets elsewhere in the same section and row for less, Game Time will give you 110% of the difference. So go on and get the tickets you want with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Hey, Giant fans, the new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every day. First, the bad man, Tyler Rowland, kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop for a visit with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the local Locked On NFL experts, and you'll get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the new Locked On NFL your second listen on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and I hope you enjoyed the interview with Victor Cruz. I always love chatting with Victor. He is just such a sweetheart of a guy, and it's always good to catch up with him. All right, before we get into this next segment, just a reminder, tomorrow we have Crossover Thursday. Jeff Lloyd, host of Locked On Browns, will join me as we get you ready for Week 3, New York Giants at Cleveland Browns. We'll have the top storylines, the key matchups, everything you need to know, and hopefully I'll be able to come up with some kind of formula for a Giants win because Lord knows, because the Giants sure could use a win, right? Okay. All right. On this segment, what is the pulse of the Giants locker room? Now, I mentioned this because here's the thing. I understand that these are professionals, that they get paid to do a job, that, regardless of what happens, show up, put in the time, do your job to the best of your ability, and just, hope that your best is good enough. However, there are guys that are young who are not used to losing, who, are still getting acclimated to life in the NFL. Remember, the Giants have one of the youngest rosters in the league. And my concern for this Giants team, if I'm being totally honest with you, is how do they keep from falling into a rut? Because it is very easy to do that. It's very easy, if you keep losing game after game after game, to check out, if you will. Now, to be fair, last year when everything was crumbling around the Giants, Brian Daboll kept the team competitive. Nobody really checked out. It worked out for them in that sense, although the record wasn't reflective of it working out. This year, because it's starting so early, there is, I guess you could say there's legitimate concern that maybe, the locker room leaders need to keep an eye on that. These were topics. This was a topic that was raised to Bobby Okereke and to Andrew Thomas, 2 guys who are captains on this team. And they basically said, look, the bottom line is so long as guys are doing their jobs, focusing on themselves, looking in the mirror, did I give the best effort I possibly could? Everything should work itself out. That includes, by the way, the coaching staff. All right. Now, that might be easier said than done. All right. Because sometimes you can give your absolute best or what you think is your best, and your competition, who gets paid as well, it just might be better. So that is something certainly to keep an eye on, is the mood of the locker room. I personally think the locker room will be okay. As I record this, it's a Tuesday, so the team has off. I'll be in the locker room on Wednesday. I'll be able to get a better feel for, how the guys are responding and just the overall mood and whatnot. But that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, if you're not tired of losing, then I'm supposing that you don't have any kind of rooting interest in the Giants. and especially with how they've been losing. So, what you want to see moving forward from this Giants team, you want to see them be competitive. You want to see the little glimmers of hope that we kind of saw in last week's game. And by that, I mean the offensive line played well. You could say that Daniel Jones played a little bit better than he did in week one. Drew Phillips had another good game. So there were things to like in last week's games. And what you want to see is you want to see that arrow slowly going up. You don't want to see it going down because that means they're going backwards. I think Bobby Okereke hit the nail on the head when he said, look, if everybody just does their job, don't worry about the guy next to you and whether he's doing your job. Just look in the mirror, do your job, then the results will be there. So, will they win every game? No. Can they at least be competitive in every game? That's what you want to see. And, if they win a few games that maybe they're not supposed to win, at least according to the critics, then great. If they continue to slide downward because they're sloppy, because they're not playing complimentary football, because they're doing stupid things that just absolutely, shoot themselves in the foot, then I hate to say it, folks, but they deserve whatever record they come up with and whatever consequences come with it. So let's hope that the locker room, when they show up for work on Wednesday, that they're in a good place. I think they will be, but that's something that I'll be looking for as the week goes on. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Giants. As always, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you keep it here the rest of the week. We'll have plenty more coverage, including Crossover Thursday with Locked On Browns host Jeff Lloyd. That is coming your way tomorrow. So until then, Giant fans, have a good one, and I'll see you soon.